The night was not silent anymore. The ground shook. The sky burned red like it was bleeding. From the distance came the sound of engines that were not from Earth. Mara ran through the broken forest, her heart pounding like a drum. She was holding her small daughter, Lena, who was crying softly against her chest. Smoke and ash covered the air. Every breath hurt. Every step felt heavy. Behind them, the colony was gone. The aliens had come fast, machines that walked like spiders with blue lights and voices that were cold and strange. No one knew what they wanted. They just destroyed everything. Mara's husband had told her to run. That was the last time she saw him, turning back toward the burning field, shouting for her to go. Now it was only her and Lena. She stopped near a fallen tree. The smell of burned soil filled her nose. She could hear the alien drones moving closer, searching for life. Their scanners could find heat, sound, even the smell of blood. Mara looked around in panic. There was no place to hide. Then she saw it, a muddy ditch near the roots of an old tree. Without thinking, she pulled Lena down and covered her small body with mud. Lena shivered and tried to speak, but Mara whispered, "Shh, don't move, baby. Pretend you are part of the earth." She covered herself next, pressing her body into the cold mud. Her heart was beating so loud she was sure the aliens could hear it. A strange light passed over them, a blue beam scanning the area. The sound of metal feet stopped near the tree. Mara froze. The drone turned, scanning again. For a moment, the light hovered right above her face. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. Then just as suddenly, the sound faded. The drone moved away. Mara waited. 10 seconds, 30, 1 minute. Only then did she dare to lift her head. The sky was dark again, silent. She crawled to Lena, who was trembling, her face half covered in dirt. "It's okay," Mara whispered, pulling her close. It's okay now, but she knew it wasn't. The aliens would come again. They always did. They had to keep moving. Hours passed as they walked through the dead forest. Once they saw another human body lying near a burned camp. Mara didn't stop. She couldn't afford to. Lena was tired, but she kept walking, her small hand gripping her mother's sleeve. By morning, they reached the edge of the old valley, the ruins of the mining tunnels where humans used to work. It was quiet there. Too quiet. Mara decided they would rest for a moment. She gave Lena the last piece of dry bread she had. Lena looked up at her. "Mommy, where's Daddy?" Mara's lips trembled, but she forced a smile. "He's watching us from the stars, baby. He wants us to be brave." Suddenly, a noise came from behind them, a crunch of gravel. Mara jumped and pulled out the small knife she carried. A shadow moved between the rocks. "Who's there?" she shouted, her voice shaking. No answer. Only the sound of slow, uneven steps. Then he appeared. A man, tall, covered in dirt and blood. His clothes were torn, his arm bandaged with a piece of metal cloth. His eyes were sharp but tired. "Don't be afraid," he said, raising his hands. "I'm human." Mara didn't lower the knife. "Prove it," the man gave a weak smile. "If I wasn't, you'd already be dead." Lena hid behind her mother. The man looked at her gently. "You have a child. You can't stay here. The drones will return before nightfall." Mara narrowed her eyes. "How do you know?" "Because I used to work for them," he said quietly. The words made her freeze. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked around and motioned toward the tunnels. "Come with me if you want to live. There's a shelter underground." "I'll explain later." Mara hesitated. Every part of her screamed not to trust him. But there was something in his voice. Tired, honest, human. She looked down at Lena, who was clutching her hand, whispering, "Mommy, I'm scared." Mara took a deep breath and nodded. "All right. Show me." The man turned and started walking toward the tunnels. Mara followed, holding Lena close. As they disappeared into the darkness, the wind blew through the dead valley. Far away, high in the sky, blue lights began to move again, searching, scanning, hunting, and the man's quiet words echoed in Mara's mind. "If you want to live, follow me now." The tunnel was cold and narrow. Mara held Lena's hand tightly as they followed the man through the dark. Their footsteps echoed softly on the metal floor. Water dripped from the roof. The air smelled of rust and oil. The man carried a small light that flickered like a dying candle. He moved slowly, carefully, as if he knew every turn in the tunnel. After some time, they reached a heavy steel door. The man pressed his hand on a black panel beside it. A red light scanned his palm, then turned green. The door opened with a low hiss. Inside was a small underground room. Walls made of old ship metal, a broken generator in one corner, and a pile of food cans and tools. It wasn't much, but to Mara and Lena it felt like a miracle. "Sit down," the man said softly. "You're safe here. For now." Mara sat beside her daughter, still watching him carefully. "Who are you?" she asked. The man pulled off his torn jacket and sat across from them. "My name's Jace." He looked human, strong jaw, rough beard, deep tired eyes. But there was something strange about him. His movements were too quiet, too precise. His skin had small pale marks that looked like they had once burned. Lena spoke first. "Thank you, Mr. Jace," he smiled at her. "You're welcome, little one." Then he looked at Mara. "You were lucky." "The drones almost found you," Mara frowned. "You said you used to work for them. What does that mean?" Jace was silent for a long time. He stared at the floor before answering. "It means I was part of their project. A soldier. Half human, half machine." Mara's eyes widened. She pulled Lena closer. "You're one of them?" "No," he said quickly, shaking his head. "Not anymore. They made me fight my own kind. But I broke free." He looked at his hands. Human, but with faint lines of silver under the skin. "I couldn't take it. The screams. The faces, so I ran. Been hiding down here ever since." Lena's eyes were wide. "Are you a robot?" Jace smiled sadly. "Not really. I still bleed. I still dream." The generator made a weak hum. He opened a metal box and handed Mara a small package. "Eat this. It's not fresh, but it'll help." Mara hesitated, then took it. The food tasted old but safe. For the first time in days, she felt her stomach calm. Lena fell asleep beside her, wrapped in Jace's spare blanket. Mara sat quietly, watching Jace fix some wires near the wall. After a while, she spoke softly. "Why are you helping us?" He didn't look up. "Because I remember what it feels like to be human." His voice was low, heavy with pain. "I lost everything. My family, my friends. The aliens erased it all. I thought saving someone might mean—" "I'm still human inside," Mara didn't reply. She looked at him, seeing both danger and sadness in his face. Later, when she thought he was asleep, she noticed something strange. A small light blinking under his collar, near his neck. A thin metal line ran from his skin into a chip. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Mara's blood turned cold. Was he sending signals? She wanted to believe him, but part of her screamed not to. The next morning, Lena woke up smiling. "Mommy, Uncle Jace made breakfast." Jace was already cooking something over a small heat plate. The smell made Mara's stomach growl. They sat together. For a short time, it almost felt normal. A small family hiding from the world. Lena laughed as Jace told her stories about stars and ships that could fly faster than light. But Mara couldn't shake the feeling. Every time Jace looked away, she glanced at that blinking chip on his neck. After breakfast, he showed her an old map on a cracked screen. "There are other humans out there," he said. "A group in the north, survivors. If we move fast, we can reach them." Mara stared at the map. "And what if you're lying?" He looked at her, his eyes calm but sad. "Then you'll have to kill me before they find you." The words hung in the air like smoke. That night, when everyone was quiet, Mara woke to a soft sound, whispering. She turned her head and saw Jace kneeling near the machine, speaking in a strange, metallic voice. The screen glowed blue with alien symbols. She couldn't understand the language, but one line appeared in English. It read, "Prepare the human subjects." Mara's breath caught. Her hand went to her knife. Was this a trap? Had she trusted the wrong man? She didn't move, didn't make a sound. She only watched the man who had saved her child, and now spoke the language of the enemy. The flickering blue light painted Jace's face half in shadow, half in sorrow, and Mara realized that the real danger might not be outside the tunnel. It might be sitting right in front of her. The tunnels were quiet, but Mara's mind was not. She couldn't forget what she saw on the screen, the words that haunted her. Prepare the human subjects. Since that night, she couldn't sleep. Every time Jace left the room, she listened. Every sound, every click of the machine made her heart tighten. By day, he acted normal. He helped Lena fix a small toy from old metal scraps. He cooked, told stories, and taught them how to make the air filters work again. But at night, When the lights dimmed and the world turned silent, she could feel something else in him. A secret. Mara didn't want Lena to notice her fear, so she smiled and played along. But every time Jace spoke about survival, she wondered, was he planning for them? Or for someone else? One afternoon, while Jace went to the upper tunnels to collect supplies, Mara finally searched. She checked every corner of the shelter. The storage box, the old lockers, even the generator panel. Nothing. Then she saw it. A small metal door behind a stack of crates. Half buried, almost hidden, Mara pushed the crates aside and opened it. Inside was a narrow passage lit faintly by a strange blue light. She hesitated, then crawled inside. The air was colder here. The walls were covered with thin wires and glowing symbols she didn't understand. At the end of the tunnel was a small chamber, and in the center stood a black cube humming softly. Mara touched it. The cube blinked and suddenly a voice echoed. Deep, mechanical, familiar. Unit J3 active. Awaiting next human sample. Her blood froze. She stepped back, trembling. So it was true. Jace wasn't just part machine. He was still connected to them. She turned to run, but then she heard footsteps behind her. Don't move, Jace said quietly. Mara froze. His voice wasn't angry when it was tired, broken. He stepped into the light. His face looked pale, his eyes dark with guilt. You weren't supposed to find this. Mara's voice shook. You lied to me. You said you escaped them. I did, he said. But you can't just escape something built inside your mind. He walked toward the cube and placed his hand on it. The symbols flickered, then faded. The machine calls me. Every day, it tries to make me send data back. I fight it, but it doesn't stop. Then why are you keeping it here? She demanded. Because if I destroy it, he said, they'll know where I am. Mara didn't lower her knife. And what about me? My daughter? Are we just part of your experiment too? Jace looked at her, pain in his eyes. You think I'd hurt a child? I don't know what you'd do, Mara whispered. He sighed and stepped closer, slow and careful. Listen to me, Mara, I didn't choose what I am. They made me. But saving you, like that was my choice. Mara's hand trembled. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust those tired human eyes. But that voice from the cube still echoed in her head. Jace looked down. You want to know why I helped you? Because when I saw you cover your daughter in mud, I remembered my own mother. His voice cracked. She did the same for me once, during the first invasion, but I didn't make it. They took me, turned me into this. The silence that followed was heavy. Lena's small footsteps echoed from behind. Mommy! Mara turned quickly. Lena, stay back. But Jace knelt down. It's all right. I won't hurt you. Lena looked up at him with innocent eyes. You're sad, Uncle Jace, he smiled weakly. Maybe I am. She handed him a small flower she'd found earlier, dry, fragile, from the old world. Here, flowers make people feel better. Jace took it carefully, staring at it for a long moment. Then he looked at Mara. See? That's what makes humans different. You always find light, even in the dark. For the first time, Mara saw something real in his eyes. Not the cold machine glow, but warmth, regret, humanity. She lowered the knife slowly, but before she could speak, the generator lights flickered. The ground vibrated slightly. Jace's head snapped toward the tunnel. They found us, he whispered. Who? Mara asked, her voice shaking. The ones I ran from. He turned toward the cube and slammed his hand on it. Sparks flew. The machine screamed in static. Run, he said. Take Lena and run to the lower tunnels. Mara hesitated. What about you? I'll buy you time. Lena clung to Mara's hand. Uncle Jace, don't let the bad ones take you. He smiled at her, a sad human smile. I won't. As Mara pulled her daughter toward the lower passage, she looked back one last time. Jace stood in the blue light, facing the darkness ahead. And as the first alien drones appeared in the tunnel entrance, their cold lights flickering, Jace whispered to himself, let's see if I still remember how to fight. The sound of explosions rolled through the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling as Mara pulled Lena deeper underground. Behind them, blue flashes lit the darkness, the sign of alien drones closing in. Mara's heart pounded. Every step echoed in her ears. Mommy, what about Uncle Jace? Lena cried. Mara didn't answer. She didn't know if Jace was still alive. Finally, they reached a narrow passage. Mara pushed Lena inside and covered the entrance with debris. They sat together, breathing fast in the dark, then by silence. Only the low hum of distant machines. Minutes passed. Then footsteps. Heavy, uneven. Mara gripped her knife again. The shadow of a man appeared at the end of the passage. It was Jace. His face was covered in ash, one arm bleeding silver mixed with red. The metal in his skin flickered weakly. Lena ran to him. "You came back." He smiled faintly. "Of course I did." Mara stood frozen. "How did you survive that?" He leaned against the wall. "I told you. They built me to survive anything." Then he looked down, his voice low. "But it still hurts." Mara saw the pain in his eyes, the kind that wasn't just from wounds. It was old, deep. She tore a piece of cloth and wrapped it around his arm. "You should rest." He looked at her hands as she worked. "You're still helping me, even after everything." "I don't have to trust you to help you," she said quietly. He smiled sadly. Fair enough. For a long time no one spoke. The only sound was the drip of water echoing through the tunnel. Finally, Mara said, "You owe me the truth, Jace. All of it." He nodded slowly. "You're right. You deserve to know." He sat down and leaned his head back against the cold wall. When the aliens first came, the humans fought back. But we were losing. The world's leaders made a deal with a company, GenCore. They promised to build soldiers who could match alien power, soldiers made from both flesh and machine. He looked at his hand. The metal beneath the skin glimmered faintly. I was one of the first volunteers. I thought I was saving humanity. But I was wrong. Mara's voice trembled. "What did they do to you?" "They took away what made us human. Our pain, our fear, our choices." He paused. "They replaced it with programming. Commands to obey, to fight, to kill." He stared at the ground. "When the aliens learned about us, they didn't destroy the project. They took it. They improved it. Turned us into something worse, living weapons loyal to them." Mara's eyes widened. "You were fighting for the aliens?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, for years I was one of their soldiers. I burned cities. I hunted humans. I don't remember how many I killed. I didn't feel anything. I was just a machine following orders." Lena moved closer to Mara, frightened. Mara whispered, "Then what changed?" Jace closed his eyes. "One day I was ordered to clear a refugee camp. I went in with a unit. But there was a little girl. She was hiding under a blanket. She looked just like my sister." He swallowed hard. "Something inside me broke. I couldn't do it. I turned my weapon on my own unit and ran. That's when they marked me as rogue." He lifted his sleeve. A burned alien symbol was etched into his arm, a mark of betrayal. Mara's anger began to fade, replaced by sorrow. "You've been running ever since," she said softly. He nodded. "Every day the system tries to call me back. The chip in my neck and it sends a signal. I keep fighting it. But someday I might lose." Lena whispered. "But you're good now, right?" Jace looked at her with tired eyes. "I want to be." Mara felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to hate him for what he had done, but she couldn't. He had saved them. He had protected Lena. He had chosen to fight against what he was made to be. She finally spoke. "You said you knew other humans, survivors." Jace nodded. "If the signal I picked up is right, there's a human camp north of the mountains. It might be our only chance." Mara looked down at Lena, who was resting her head on her lap. "Then we'll go. But if you ever betray us, I'll end it myself." Jace smiled faintly. "That's fair." He stood, his movement slow but steady. "We leave at sunrise. The scanners rest during daylight." As Mara watched him walk away, she realized something. Jace wasn't just fighting the aliens. He was fighting himself, and that battle, she knew, was far more dangerous. When the lights of dawn touched the tunnel walls, Jace looked out toward the horizon. The wind carried the smell of metal and ash. He whispered to himself, almost like a prayer. "Maybe this time, I can save someone for real." The sun rose weakly over the broken world. Golden light touched the edges of the ruined land, revealing the scars of war, burnt trees, shattered metal, and smoke that never stopped rising. Mara, Lena, and Jace walked quietly through the valley, keeping low between the rocks. They had left the tunnels before dawn, following an old dirt road that led north toward the mountains. The air smelled of ash and dust, but at least it wasn't filled with the sound of drones. For now, they were safe. Lena walked beside Jace, holding a small piece of wire like a toy. "Are we close to the good people, Uncle Jace?" He smiled faintly. "Not yet, little star. But soon." Mara kept her eyes on the horizon. "You said there was a camp north of here. How do you know it's real?" Jace tapped the small device on his wrist. It flickered with static and green light. "2 nights ago, I picked up a human distress call. It had old Earth codes, something no alien could fake." Mara frowned. "And if it is fake?" He didn't look at her. "Then we'll find out the hard way." They walked all morning, stopping only when Lena grew tired. Mara gave her some water, the last bit they had. "Mommy," Lena whispered, "what if there are other kids there?" Mara smiled gently. "Then you'll have friends again." Lena's eyes lit up. "Can we stay there forever?" Mara didn't answer. She wanted to believe it, to dream of a safe place. But dreams were dangerous in this world. By afternoon, the air began to hum. A faint vibration passed through the ground. Jace froze instantly, his eyes scanning the sky. "Drones," he said softly. 2, maybe 3. Mara grabbed Lena's hand. "Where?" "Too far to see," he said. "But close enough to smell us if we light a fire. Keep moving." They climbed through rocky hills until the signal on Jace's wrist started to beep faster. "It's getting stronger," he said. "The camp should be over that ridge." Lena's eyes brightened. "Really?" But Mara felt uneasy. The sky was too quiet. No birds, no wind, only that strange beeping. As they reached the top of the hill, they saw it. A large crater filled with half-buried metal and smoke. In the center stood a small communication tower, its light blinking faintly. "There," Jace said. "That's where the signal came from." Mara squinted. "But where are the people?" Jace frowned. He pulled out his scanner again. The screen glitched. "That's strange. The frequency's looping. What does that mean?" "It means—" He paused, face tightening. "It's not real." The ground beneath them suddenly shifted. Click. Jace's eyes widened. "Run!" A blinding blue light burst from the tower. The air screamed. The explosion threw them backward. Mara hit the ground hard, ears ringing. Lena cried out, clutching her leg. When the smoke cleared, dark shapes were moving through the crater. Machines, tall and thin, glowing with alien light. "They found us," Jace growled, pulling Mara up. "Move!" But before they could reach cover, a net of blue energy shot through the air, wrapping around Lena. She screamed as the light lifted her from the ground. "Lena!" Mara cried, running forward, but the blast knocked her down again. Jace fired his weapon, a burst of red plasma that tore through one of the drones. The rest turned toward him. "Get to the rocks!" he shouted. "I'll get her." "No." "You can't." But he was already gone, running through smoke and light faster than human eyes could follow. His mechanical limbs whirred, his movements sharp and desperate. Mara crawled behind a boulder, heart pounding. She could see him leaping between fire and metal, trying to reach Lena as the machines carried her higher toward the ship hovering above the crater. "Lena!" His voice echoed, full of raw pain. He fired again. One drone exploded. Another shot hit him in the chest, throwing him back. Sparks flew from his body. Mara screamed his name. "Jace!" He struggled to his feet, smoke rising from his armor. His voice broke with fury. "Let her go!" The machines didn't stop. The ship's beam pulled Lena higher, her small hand reaching down. "Uncle Jace, Mommy!" Mara ran forward, but the blast of heat forced her back. And then, in one final burst of strength, Jace jumped. He launched himself into the air, grabbing the drone carrying Lena. Metal cracked, lights burst, and the beam shattered. Lena fell, rolling down the slope. Mara ran and caught her in her arms. But when she looked up, the ship was already leaving. Jace was gone. "Where is he?" Lena cried. Mara held her close, trembling. "He's coming back," he promised. The night fell fast. The tower light blinked weakly, then died. Mara and Lena hid in the ruins alone once more. Far above, the alien ship vanished into the clouds, carrying with it the man who had once said, "If you want to live, follow me now." Mara whispered into the cold air, her voice breaking. "I followed you. Jace, now come back to us." The first thing Jace felt was cold, not the kind of cold that bites the skin. This one lived inside the bones. His eyes opened slowly. Bright blue light filled the room around him. He was lying on a metal table, arms locked in place by silver restraints. Above him, alien machines moved like floating insects, whispering in strange voices. The sound echoed inside his head, not in his ears but through his mind. Unit J3, reconnected. Memory trace, active. Begin assimilation. He tried to move, but his body didn't respond. Sparks flickered along his skin. Pain rushed through him as the machine tried to wake the part of him he had buried, the part that still belonged to them. No, he growled through clenched teeth. Not again. Images flashed across his mind, old battles, dead cities, human screams. He remembered everything they made him do, everything he wanted to forget, and then a voice, small, afraid. Uncle Jace. His eyes shot open. He turned his head, barely able to move, and saw her, Lena, trapped inside a glass pod across the room. Her eyes were open, her hands pressed against the glass. She was crying silently. Lena, he shouted, pulling at the restraints. The machines turned toward him. One of them floated closer, its long metal arms glowing blue. Emotion detected. Remove. The beam hit his neck, right where the implant was. Pain exploded through his body, but instead of breaking him, it woke something fierce inside him. Jace roared, the metal under his skin glowing red hot. He ripped one arm free, then the other. The machine screeched as he tore the restraints apart. Target non-compliant. Terminate. But he was already moving. He grabbed the nearest drone and smashed it into the wall. Sparks filled the room. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. He ran to Lena's pod, slamming his fists against the glass. Hold on. Her eyes widened in hope. You came back. I told you I would, he said, tearing at the lock panel. The glass hissed and opened. He caught her as she fell into his arms. Are you hurt? He asked. She shook her head. Just scared, he smiled weakly. Me too. Behind them, the doors slid open. 2 alien guards entered, tall, armored faces hidden behind shifting light. Close your eyes, Jace said. He lunged forward faster than any human could move. His fist crashed into one guard, crushing its chest plate. The second fired a beam, but he dodged and threw a piece of broken metal like a spear. The alien fell, its body twitching with blue sparks. Lena looked up at him with awe. You're like a superhero. Jace chuckled softly. I'm just trying to be human again. They moved through the corridors, endless halls of silver and light. Behind glass walls, Jace saw others, men, women, children, frozen in pods like Lena had been. Mara's words echoed in his mind. If you ever betray us, I'll end it myself, he whispered. Not this time. He pressed his hand against the wall. The alien tech inside him responded, linking with the ship's system. His eyes glowed faintly as he spoke the alien command codes. Override. Release all human captives. The lights flickered. The pods hissed open one by one. Weak voices filled the air, humans waking after years of silence. One woman cried, Who are you? Jace looked at her. Someone who forgot what it means to be human, and is trying to remember. Suddenly the ship shook violently. The computer's voice roared, Containment breach. Initiate destruction sequence. Jace lifted Lena into his arms. Hold tight. He sprinted through the collapsing corridor, dodging falling beams and fire. The ship was breaking apart. They reached a central chamber, a glowing sphere pulsing with blue energy. The core, he set Lena down gently. This is what controls everything. If I shut it down, you'll all be free. But what about you? She asked, tears in her eyes. He smiled. Maybe freedom has a price. Lena grabbed his hand. Don't leave us, Uncle Jace. He knelt down and looked her in the eyes. You tell your mom. I kept my promise. Before she could speak, he placed a small data chip in her hand. Give this to Mara, it's hope. He stood, turning toward the core. The light from it washed over him, reflecting off his metal scars. He closed his eyes. I was made by monsters, but I'll die as a man. With one last roar, he plunged his hand into the core. The light exploded outward. White, blinding, pure. Lena screamed his name as the ship burst into flames and began to fall from the sky. When she opened her eyes again, she was lying on the ground. Smoke and fire filled the air, but she was alive, surrounded by other freed humans. In her hand, the chip still glowed faintly with red light. She whispered through her tears, He saved us. And above the burning wreckage, a single voice echoed through the static of her device. Jace's voice, faint but alive. Don't give up, little star. Humanity always fights back. Smoke still covered the sky. The alien ship had fallen like a dying star, leaving fire and silence across the valley. Mara ran through the ashes, calling out, "Lena! Lena!" Her voice cracked, filled with fear and hope mixed together. All around her, pieces of the broken ship burned in the dirt. The smell of metal and ozone filled the air. She stumbled over wreckage, ignoring the pain in her legs. Then she saw movement. A small figure lying near a shattered pod. "Lena!" she cried, rushing forward. Lena opened her eyes slowly. Her face was covered in dust, her hair tangled. "Mommy?" Mara fell to her knees, hugging her tightly. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Tears ran down both their faces. For a long moment, neither spoke, just the sound of wind and fire around them. Then Lena whispered, "He saved me, Mommy. Uncle Jace saved everyone." Mara looked around. Dozens of people, weak, scared, and trembling, now were crawling out of the wreckage. Men, women, and children who had been prisoners now stood under the open sky for the first time in years. Mara felt a surge of emotion, relief, gratitude, and sorrow. She looked up at the smoke rising into the clouds. "Where is he?" Lena opened her small hand and showed a glowing data chip. "He gave me this." He said it's hope. Mara took it gently. The chip pulsed once, then projected a faint red hologram. Jace's face appeared smiling, bruised but alive. "If you're seeing this," his voice said, "then I did it. The core is gone. The humans are free." Mara held her breath, tears already building. "I don't know if I survived," the recording continued. "But if I didn't, that's okay. Maybe being human isn't about living forever. Maybe it's about who you save before you go." Lena pressed her face against Mara's arm, whispering, "I miss him." Mara wiped her eyes. "Me too, sweetheart." The message flickered again. Jace looked straight ahead, his eyes calm, his voice soft. "The signal inside me, it's gone now. I'm free. Tell the others to keep moving north. There's a safe zone. Humanity still has a chance." Then the hologram faded. Mara held the chip close to her heart. He was more human than anyone I ever knew. Days passed. The survivors built small shelters using metal from the wreckage. They started fires, shared food, and told stories of what had happened. Lena became their little light, always smiling, always asking about the stars. At night, she drew in the dirt with a stick, drawing pictures of Jace. "Mommy," she said one evening, "if he's part machine, can he still come back?" Mara smiled softly. "Maybe, machines can break, but hearts can find their way home." One morning, the survivors heard a deep rumble in the distance. A shadow crossed the valley, a large ship descending from the clouds. But this one was different. It was human. The survivors cheered and waved pieces of cloth in the air. The ship landed gently on the open plain. Soldiers stepped out, wearing old Earth insignias. Mara walked forward, holding Lena's hand. The leader of the soldiers approached. "We got your signal." "Who sent it?" Mara lifted the small data chip. "A man named Jace." The soldier's face changed. He looked surprised. "Jace, J3? We've been tracking that signal for months. We thought he was gone." Mara's heart skipped. "You know him?" The soldier nodded slowly. "A week ago, we found someone on the border of the northern zone. Barely alive, metal parts burned off. He kept saying only one thing." Mara's voice shook. "What did he say?" The soldier looked at her and whispered, "He said, 'I'm human.'" Lena's eyes filled with tears. "Mommy, he's alive!" Mara pressed her hand to her mouth, unable to speak. The soldier pointed toward the medical ship. "He's inside. You should see him." Inside the ship, the air was warm and clean. Machines hummed softly, not with alien coldness but with human care. Jace lay on a bed wrapped in bandages. The metal that once covered him was gone and replaced by skin, weak but real. His eyes were closed. For a moment, Mara thought he was asleep. Then he opened them, slowly, carefully. When he saw her, he smiled. "You made it." Mara's eyes filled with tears. "You kept your promise." Lena ran to his bedside, holding his hand. "Uncle Jace!" "You came back." He smiled weakly. "Told you I would." Mara touched his face gently. "You're human again," he nodded. "I guess I always was. I just forgot for a while." Lena grinned. "You're family now." Jace looked at both of them, his eyes soft and full of peace. "Family," he whispered. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Outside, the wind carried the sound of laughter and rebuilding. Humans once broken were rising again. And as the sun set behind the mountains, Jace sat by the window watching the light fade. He smiled, a real human smile. They tried to turn me into a machine, he said softly. But humanity isn't in the body. It's in the heart. Mara placed her hand over his. Welcome home, Jace. The stars began to shine above the quiet valley, bright, endless, and alive. And for the first time in a long time, hope returned to the world.